Hi guys, it's one more week to the end. I'm wanting to collect my thoughts for this week about what the general theme is, and my first thoughts are we've got a theme of redemption, legacy. It's it's pretty on the nose, to be honest with you. Uh, Tom, we obviously now know Tommy's dying, or supposedly dying, and that leaves them a person to consider their legacy, what they leave behind. I think that's one of the things about having Duke be introduced, where we're trying to fix a broken legacy, especially with Ruby dying and looking at where he is going forward. If you want my initial thoughts on Duke, Tommy sees him as what would have been if he had never gone to France, if he had never gone into this life of power and drink and drugs and building of empires. And it's a man's regret. Bearing in mind, he is successful. This is what he wanted. He wanted power. He wanted things for his family, his legacy. He thought amassing this great power and wealth was going to be his legacy, and sort of get him out of the trenches from France and the rest of his family, so that they could have something better. But as he looks around him and sort of the characters that he's intermingling with, and the things he's done in his past, from all the killings of his enemies to all the people he killed in France, all this sort of weighs on him, and you could see that in the dream sequence where he sort of saw these dead bodies around him. I think that was sort of on the nose symbolism of, what is his legacy. His legacy to him at this stage is death and destruction and fool's gold, essentially. It glitters, it gleams, but it's nothing of real substance. And it's clever theming. I've said this a lot during these reviews. I've just got real concerns about structure and pacing, and I'm sort of keep looking at it now, and it's not that the scripts are bad. They just needed more time. It's like we've got 90 minutes left of this series and supposedly a movie, which is great for us, but it's still not a lot of time. This 90 minutes and then maybe another 2.5. This story needed probably more of an American style of season, where it's sort of 12, 15 episodes to really give you time to talk about these large themes. It's not that the storytelling is bad, it's just either dragging or rushing. And what I mean by that is there's been episodes like last week and the first episode which have really dragged and not really taken us anywhere. And now we want to tackle these massive themes of redemption and a man's soul and achievements and all these other bits and pieces that are massive topics which really need far longer than they're probably being given. We need a lot more time with the likes of Duke and with Stephen Graham's character Stag. I think he's been wickedly underutilised. I've gone through before that I think Paul Anderson's been used terribly this series. And dear God, where did Finn come from? I've not seen Finn since last series. And there he just comes up with his wife. It's like, here's this weird little intro. Hello. What? Where did you come from? You're about as unannounced as Michael's Tash, which I'm gonna keep going on about because it's bloody stupid, and I can't take him seriously because of his Tash twirling. I am the villain, but I'm only going to be the villain in the last few seconds. In the last episode, I'm going to be the hitman. I did like the stuff with the flashback between him and his mother. That sort of minute and a half scene was brilliant. It sets up Michael's motivation really well and gives it a good visual for the audience, a good visual sort of prompt as to what his motivations are. And Peaky Blinders can use iconography very, very well. It's just sometimes a lot of style over substance. But this week, I think it was really well. I think a lot of the imagery sort of told the story. The main key in storytelling a lot of the time, especially in a visual medium like TV, is show, don't tell. And the reason you can see why this motivation is around Tommy's soon, or assumed to be soon, demise, and the sort of look at redemption and resurrection and legacy and all these other sort of post-death things were complemented really well with the sort of the religious iconography and some of the travelling community iconography, such as the wheel for the wagon and the sort of conversations that he had with Duke around his own sort of beginning and end, and then when he's in the church a lot, you know, when people think of sort of what do they do at the end of their days, and you know, how do they account for their affairs, a lot of people will try and go to some of the religion of when they were young. You will find that a lot of people try and find solace in religion, spirituality, all sorts of different faith aspects, to simply... We all want to believe that there's something in the afterlife, be that from whatever denomination, for whatever your beliefs are. You're looking for the next. What does this mean? Where do I go once I die? So I think the sort of use of the religious iconography and everything else really support the story really well. I actually preferred some of the dialogue between Tommy and Lizzie this week. It's not great. I don't think there's a lot of chemistry between them as actors, but the themes are there, and it's quite telling. Tommy, from my sort of viewpoint, he's trying to push Lizzie away. As he pointed out in the sort of end bit, he doesn't feel deserving of her. You know, that's why, you know, the sex scene with Oswald's wife happened. I believe that is an act of Tommy pushing Lizzie away. He knew that somehow she'd find out, and she's still trying to sort of break into this man who she loves. And I think there is a love there. It's just very one-sided. She sort of asks, you know, why did you change the combination on on the safe, and he's still trying to keep secrets from her. All she really wants is for him to be open with her and not keep pushing her away. He won't tell her that he's dying. He won't tell her what his business is. He won't even let her into his own grief regarding Ruby. That the public sort of shaming that she got as he introduced Duke as this sort of nonchalance reference of, oh, by the way, I have a son. It's quite disheartening for her as a character, and quite a public shaming, not only of her, but for her, a distancing between him and his daughter. They've only recently lost their daughter, and here he is sort of bringing in a new child, what she may feel as a replacement for her daughter. And there's so much of this pull and push away of where are we going. I want somebody near to me, but I don't feel that I can be open with you. I've got to be insular because of all these terrible deeds that I'm about to do. Tommy views himself as quite an evil character, and maybe he is. Maybe because of his actions he is evil, but I would never say a character or a person is beyond redemption. And the thing is, he can't forgive himself. He can't see that he's trying his best, and he feels that he has to do these dark deeds and then justifies them later, which is not really the way it should be with him. He could walk away. There was conversations about you could have walked away from all this years ago with Stag, and been a normal mortal man. And he's sort of saying, I can be a mortal man at my end. Whereas Stag's right in asking the question, when is enough enough? That's a philosophical question for us all. When do we amount enough? Enough possessions, enough things, enough power, enough time? When can we just be sort of exist as humans? So it's a good philosophical question for a show to tell, but I think it's sort of going about it in the wrong way, because Tommy believes that he's beyond redemption, even though he's desperately trying to seek redemption. Be that spiritually or whatever. He feels that he needs to get his house in order. He needs to get the legacy of the family in order. Be that financially, be that as an organisation, as a family. He's trying to prepare the ground for his own death. Now, I think they're gonna do a bit of a bait and switch, with the fact that the movie's been announced and confirmed. I cannot see them killing off the main character. They may do it sort of in the series, but it'd be a bait and switch at the start of the film. It's got to be, because without that, it's not going to have the star power and the cinema pull to get people into cinemas. I think that's just a fact. So I don't think Kieran Murphy's actually going anywhere. As for the other stuff that's going off in the background, all the double crossing and the sort of mind games and the sort of 2D action between the antagonists is starting to come together. You can see that Jack wants Tommy dead, and that Mosley's slowly getting himself into a position where he no longer needs Tommy. And I can see the IRA section almost being that way in the next episode. There'll be a spot where everyone's sort of out for Tommy and they're all double crossing each other. Now, my prediction is that this double crossing will end up turning on all of them at the same time. And there'll be some sort of massive face off where Tommy comes across and somehow escapes unscathed because they're all pointing their guns at each other metaphorically instead of at him. Again, I have an issue with how the antagonists have been written. I think it's been fairly 2D-ish. Stephen Knight, who is the head writer, clearly wants to look at his own legacy and his own longevity. That's why he's written this episode the way he has. He's not only doing it for the character about Tommy's legacy and longevity, he's talking about his own. Because this is probably, his magnum opus. This will be the thing that he's remembered for. So he's wanting to look at his own legacy in terms of writing, and wanting to make sure that he's viewed fairly. When we put this series up against some of the modern great TV like your Sopranos, your Breaking Bads, I would say Game of Thrones, but the end. You're looking at these sort of big American behemoths, and where does it stand? He's in a bit of an unenviable position because it's on the BBC, because it's a British drama. It's never going to have the production values and the budgets that American TV has. The model of the BBC just doesn't work like that. But what he does do with the budget he has is gorgeous. Now, we all know I've criticised that he focuses far more on how it looks as to the storytelling, but that is only a criticism for this series. I think he's just struggling to land the ending. But the way he structures shots and sort of focuses his characters in terms of framing and set design and all this other stuff, and musically, it's beautifully constructed for the budget. I just believe that it's lacking on the development of the supporting cast, be that antagonist or family. It needed more. It needed more than just Kieran Murphy's wonderful stage presence to pull it through. And it used to do supporting writing so well, which is where it... I just feel disappointed this series a little bit. But that's not to say this is bad stuff. It just needed more. It needed more time, more time in the oven than it's had. How else do we look at this week? I think the writers want us to look at Peaky Blinders as a whole, as a character journey, from Tommy going from this soldier who had shell shock along with a lot of people in Birmingham, and how he built himself up with his roots, with his family, built this massive empire, and then what it cost him in the end, romantically, through family, through connections. And if I'm being generous to the series, the detachment from your supporting cast could work. If you could make the argument, as Tommy as a character becomes more detached, then obviously the supporting cast gets weaker because he is detached as a character. I think there's other ways you could have done it, and I don't think it was a necessary break. I think you could have told this through the tragedy of some of the events, such as Polly dying and Ruby dying. You could have given those moments a lot more breath, with a bit more time and a bit more... You could have delved into the impacts of these tragedies while keeping the supporting structures for the supporting cast, if you had more time and didn't badly pace the way things are going. I know you've got a problem with structure because you've only got 6 episodes, but it has harmed the overall product. It really has. Now, I want to go into sort of rumour territory as well, because I don't think we could go through this this next few episodes without talking about some of the real life rumours. Now, there are rumours that this is Cillian Murphy's audition tape, if you will, for James Bond. And it's an interesting choice. I remember watching Layer Cake years ago, before Daniel Craig was announced as James Bond. And I said straight away after leaving the seminar, that is Daniel Craig's audition tape to be James Bond. And I was right. I don't get the feeling with this that Cillian Murphy's going for that. And to be honest, I think casting-wise it would be a bad fit. Now let me explain why. Cillian Murphy's acting prowess is more suited to more complicated characters than your typical hero in James Bond. Now, I know Daniel Craig's tried to go down this darker route, but I think it failed. I don't think it connected with audiences very well because they want the cartoonish sort of superhero, unrealistic character to be James Bond. There's not much complexity to him as a character, even through Ian Fleming's writing. And I think Kieran is he would make a far better Bond villain than he ever would Bond. Because he has charisma, he has all these wonderful traits that an actor needs, but I think that the lack of material in terms of world and character building for James Bond would not work for Kieran. But that doesn't mean that I don't think he would. I think there's certainly more larger scope projects for Kieran if he wants it. I think the US is probably calling at this stage. He's shown his acting capability and his range. I know he had a couple of small roles in large films. He played Jonathan Crane, Scarecrow in the Christopher Nolan Batman series. But again, this older version of Kieran can probably carry off a lot more. And if I'm going to praise anything, I've got to praise, Murphy's acting ability himself. He has carried this show on his back, this series, because of the poor supporting writing. He's covered up a lot of cracks, and I just think you've shown as an actor what he can do. The fact that this thing has become a cultural icon around him and his imagery, and the way, I would be interested to know what sort of input as an actor he's had in the writing process of Tommy, and the sort of metamorphosis, because I don't think there's been a character on British TV, especially British made, that has carried the sort of swag and confidence and complexity that Tommy has for quite a while. Some people might say Idris Elba as Luther, and yeah, I'd probably put him in the same bracket of character work And, if we're going to talk who should play James Bond, Idris still gets my vote. I think he's got that cool swagger that would make it work. But he's in that caliber of actor. I truly think a long form American series would do Kieran the world of good, giving him the right material. All the other guys, I wish them all the best. I hope Paul Anderson gets something amazing off of this because his work deserves it. But I don't know where the end is going. Whether the end is going to be the pop that we all want it to be. I don't think there's the nuance. I don't think there's been the build there to make it, to maximise what it is. And I'd love it to be that way. I really would. But let's see. I mean, what do you guys think? I know I had a couple of guys contact me in the last stream. Kes Petrol, who agreed with everything I said. Thanks very much. And Asriel, who commented as well, who was sort of asking for my thoughts. Sorry guys, my chat feature wasn't working, but looking at this, we seem to have got it all fixed. So if you guys want to interact with me, please do, because obviously I'd love to sort of answer your questions sort of while I'm streaming, and sort of really get you guys involved. So, as the wobbly army grows, let's get somewhere, and we can take this into all different sort of realms as I hear your guys' opinions. So, give us a like, share and subscribe, that'd be awesome. In terms of the ending and where we seem to be going, it's been telegraphed that the end game is Tommy versus the Tash Twizzler. And we know it's always been going that way, and I think there's going to be a swerve where he actually ends up saving Tommy. I just can't see it being any other way, because it's the easiest expectation swerve, and that's sort of the massive want these days to swerve expectations, even when it's absolutely obvious what's coming. I mean, what else could happen? We could get the twist of Lizzie just breaking and possibly her being the one to kill Tommy. That I would find that more emotionally complex than the old Western shootout. Diddly-loo, doo, doo, doo. Diddly-loo, doo, doo, doo. Yeah, get Kieran Murphy as John Wayne or Clint Eastwood. In fact, that might actually be a decent role for an older Kieran Murphy. Have him as Clint Eastwood. Do Dirty Harry again. I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. Kieran for Dirty Harry. Do it. I don't like the thought of it just being a shootout. I want something slightly more complex. For me, like I said, Lizzie makes more sense because she's so emotionally broken. And at this stage, she's been humiliated, she's been broken, she's completely dissociated from Tommy, but still loves him. So whether it be her that had finally put him to rest, I think that's a more interesting way to look at things. What else could we look at as a potential end? Let's assume Tommy dies and who steps up? I don't want it to be Duke. We've not known him long enough. I can't really say anything about the actor's ability because we've not seen him enough. You know, he's playing a very... There's no reward in this role right now. Like, he seems to be a conduit for a younger Tommy. If things had been different, if he'd have never left France, if he'd have been this, you know, boy from the travelling community and just sort of roamed the country, he seems far more at peace with that. And I don't know. Again, that storyline needed developing at the start of this series, if not last series, if you're going to make it work. I mean, where else do you go? They've not developed his relationship with his younger son because that's still a child. So I don't really see where that goes. I mean, let's throw a few curveballs out there. Tom Hardy's Alfie gets his revenge for the maiming and everything that happened to him last series. That could be an interesting twist, although I don't... You could explain it, but I don't know if it'd have the emotional impact considering the story that you're trying to tell. I can't really see many other options in terms of how they end this. Obviously, they're telegraphing the end, but we already know that a movie's coming. So, again, it's still going to be hard to see the landing. But how are you going to generate interest for this movie without some solid work over the next hour and a half to really hook people in? Are you going to basically rely on the brand naming and things that have gone before, or are you going to give people a compelling story to go forward with? I mean, you've got to, from a story standpoint, you've got to do that. But I just don't know if the writing as is clever enough to do that, and I think it's all been left a little bit too late. I want to be proved wrong, I really do. You know, somebody said to me on here the other week, you know, you don't understand the story, you don't understand the subtleties and the nuance of the story they're trying to tell. I absolutely do. You know, one of my hobbies is reading history, and I've read a lot on the First and Second World War, which is why I find some of these characters being portrayed really interesting. If you look into the character who's playing Oswald's wife, some of her comments in the 50s and 60s after the fall of Berlin, when she was exiled to France, are horrifying. Interesting to think that someone actually still held those beliefs long into her old age and into her exile and into her death. But even more interesting is that the British media had such a fascination with her sort of post-war. She was even getting coverage back in the 90s. She got on Desert Island Discs. And she was asked about her Yahtzee, Mama Susan, her Yahtzee links. And some of her language, while showing some regret, didn't come across as a woman who'd regretted or had changed her views fundamentally. So there are some really interesting characters here that the show are using, and I would suggest people to go and to look into the histories of some of these characters. There's a fantastic video on YouTube by Biographics, a guy called Simon Whistler, who did a biography of Oswald Mosley, which is definitely worth a good check out. But do some of your own due diligence on this stuff. You know, I listen to a lot of audiobooks for my sort of background knowledge, especially when I'm doing something like this, to sort of see some of the players and to be honest with you, you know, the truth is stranger than fiction in a lot of these cases, and a lot of the characters that these that this series uses. So I would definitely suggest that. But here we are, guys. We're in the end game now, and we're chugging along right to the end of the station. Hopefully, you guys will stay with me right till the end, and then we're looking on to our next series. In terms of what's coming up, I'm looking at doing a series on the Disney Plus Kenobi series, which looks interesting. I'm looking at doing the Miss Marvel show, going into some of that comic book lore and everything else. What else are we looking at? I know the time has passed, and I know what people think of Game of Thrones, but I really want to sort of delve into that because I love the books as well as the show. So going into some of that deep lore and sort of rich universe, and sort of looking at the differences between the show and the book and all this sort of stuff is something I'd be interested in doing going forward. I'd love your guys' input in terms of what we create, because this is the promise I want to make on this channel, that it's going to be user driven. So I will go into stuff that you guys want to see. Do you want me to hate watch something and just rant about it? Do you want me to do a real in-depth critique of something, be it past or present? Or basically, I want this platform to be yours and mine, and a space for ideas. So I'm really wanting your guys' interaction and feedback, and all is welcome. If it's criticism, great. I can use it as feedback for future videos and everything else. I just want this to be something for me and for you guys to have an opinion and have a discussion and form where we want to go. So I'm going to start wrapping up for this week. As I've said before, we have got some merch, which I am wearing here. I have got a supplier all lined up. Obviously, if you guys are interested, that'd be great. I just want to spread the good word of the Wobbly Geek, and get some nice, good quality merch for you guys. Like I said, you'll probably see me in most of the hoodies. I love the hoodies. They're so wonderful and cozy, and it's the sort of stuff I wear every day. So if you guys are interested, I can sort some of that out. But otherwise, guys, I want to wrap up for this week. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. I will try and get back to everybody as we go along. And let's see where the Shelby train takes us. All aboard, last station calling. Woot woot. Wobbly Geek out.